What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is the Science Dispatch podcast. My name is Cameron English. That handsome young man is Dr. Chuck Dinerstein, Director of Medicine at the American Council on Science and Health. Chuck, I'm really digging that blue blazer. That is a good-looking jacket, my man.
Okay, well, thank you. I'd be happy to tell you that I did not pick it out, as I've not picked out any of my clothes for the last 30 years. But my wife has great taste in these things.
It's one of the best benefits of marriage is the fact that you'll get home from work and you'll walk into your room and then there's just some new clothes laid out on your bed and you go, "Where'd these come from?" And your wife goes, "Oh yeah, I was at the store and I thought you needed another Hawaiian shirt." And as you get older, you go, "Well, of course I needed another Hawaiian shirt. Of course."
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Tommy Bahama. So yes, I understand. Now, and weirdly enough, this week I just saw an article about how what you just described is an additional burden on women, that they have to spend many of their adult years taking care of the men that they gather around them.
You know what I've found, and at the risk of being called the S word, is that women tend to take on things of their own volition that are then turned around as things that you have imposed on them. That's just my humble and biased opinion.
let me go look for a longer than a 6 foot stick to take on that question.
Dr. Dinerstein knows of what I speak, as does every married man who may happen upon this podcast.
No. I think my wife picks out the clothes. So basically, as she points out to me, she won't be seen walking around with a clown. So.
Right, of her own volition, for her own benefit is why.
But she does not complain. We would much prefer that I just leave the closet alone and put on what is laid out for me on occasions when I'm going to be seen in public.
It's fine. Fair enough.
I'm good with that.
Put on the penguin suit. Let's go to dinner. I feel it. It's okay. All right. Well, we're not here to talk about wardrobes or our wives as much as we love both. This Chuck is something I didn't know about you. This article. I'd imagine it's not something you walk around making small talk about, but this is called The Uneasy Grace of Healing, Reflections on a Decade with Cancer. So let me read this introduction and then tell us the story, because this is actually a really fascinating read. So you say, it's been 10 years since cancer entered my life. The experience has challenged my understanding of illness, healing, and identity, particularly the uneasy space between being a physician and becoming a patient. In its shadow, I've learned that survival isn't a finish line, but a state of being that reshapes how we inhabit our bodies and stories. All right, a little self-help vibe on this one. Take it away.
So this is I'm coming out here, baby. This is, I could count on my hand the number of people that I'm friends with that were aware of that cancer diagnosis during the last 10 years. More in the last year or two or three as I became more comfortable in my own skin with it. But early on, it was just a horrible marker for me, because, how could you as a physician, let alone as a surgeon, allow yourself to get some kind of disease like this?
If I may...
Go ahead.
If I may cut you off, and if you don't mind sharing, do you recall the moment you found out, and what was their reaction like? Were you like, "Oh crap"?
Well, I went and got I had skipped my PSA for a year because I was busy doing other things, and I'd been getting PSAs, and they were all fine, and this one was 10 times higher than before, so that I knew something was up.
And what's a PSA for the uninitiated?
PSA, prostate-specific antigen, and it's a marker for prostate cancer. It's certainly something that men that are over 55 should be getting on a regular basis. If you have a family history of prostate cancer, you probably should get it done sooner. My father had a history of it, but going for my routine yearly evaluations, the levels were 1 or 2, which are just not in the range where you even concern yourself with, observation or getting a biopsy or anything like that. But the next one I had was probably closer to 30, which is a big change. Might as well do it. You're going to do it. You might as well do it big. And actually, and I went and saw the urologist, and he did the usual prostate examination and so on. And I could just tell from his change in demeanor that there was, a problems ahoy here. And that's when I made that luminal transition from being a well person to an individual with cancer. And that's what I tried to write about, I think, in the essay, was how that impacted me in professional terms. Switching the sides of the desk was a real project. Learning to let go. This is one of those times when having information didn't necessarily make the situation easier. And for a lot of the early decisions, the early shared decisions, I was driving the cart a lot more than I should have. I should have let the physicians be a little bit more proactive in terms of following their guidance rather than what I thought might be the best approach.
So I'm just curious, were you trying to counteract them? Would they say, this is the best course? And you're like, you're full of crap. I've been doing this 87 years and no.
Nobody, everybody, the usual thing is, well, you can do radiation, you can do chemotherapy, you can do surgery. So, I'm a surgeon. I'm looking for a surgical answer. I'm looking for one and done and cure for that. So I'm very resistant to going down the roads of radiation and chemo, though, in fact, those were probably the more intelligent choices and actually the ones that I wound up pursuing. But it took a little bit more of a threshold to get there because I kept thinking, I kept treating my problem as I would any surgical problem. And while there's some truth to that, unfortunately, I was going to be the patient here. And I should have just backed off a little bit more in terms of getting to the point where I was in more agreement with my physicians. But there was no, none of this kind of, there certainly was no explicit, I know better than you. Though there was certainly an implicit, I know better how I feel about it. But sometimes that just doesn't answer the question fully. So I've learned to make peace over time with being on the other side of the table. Very often when I'm in the doctor's office now, is I will often say, I'll stop helping so we can get on with this. Because, I just like to help out. And it's annoying to the people that are actually trying to take care of me. You don't have to keep pumping up your hand to make the vein bigger. And no, you don't have to rip off your clothes so we can do the blood pressure. We can do these things. Just sit there, try to be the patient.
I've heard, maybe it's a cliche, but doctors are the worst patients. Would you say in your experience that's true?
Well, I think I was not the best patient when it came to going back and forth over decisions. I'm a great patient when it comes to just suffering, because my approach to suffering is let me go find a rock to go under.
Right. I'm going to go ruminate on my sadness kind of thing.
Yeah, which did not serve me well. Sometimes, when you see that they're coming and try to kill you, you have to speak up. And there's just certain things you just say, no, that's just not happening. But I would be polite about it. I wasn't nasty about it, but I could understand why, as a physician, you have a meta sense of what's going on, and so you'll often get very kind of haughty about that. For example, today, when you want to talk to another physician, you text them. This is beyond my understanding. I understand I'm a boomer. I know.
I'm not a boomer. I hate it too, man.
In my day, if I wanted to talk to a physician, I picked up the frickin' phone and called. I called them myself. I didn't go through the secretaries to do this. Had a 2 or 3 minute conversation, and I got on with it. But today, for whatever reasons, and I understand why it may or may not be better, it all gets handled by text, and I just keep going, well, how do you know they got the text? How do you know it goes? At least with the phone call, I knew I either spoke to them or they were going to call me back. So it was those kind of things still make me maybe a bad patient because I get frustrated earlier, though I have learned to give in earlier on on some of these. When I can see that I'm not going to win, I just stop thrashing and move on.
Let the river take you where it's gonna, kind of a thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Go with the flow.
Well, I don't want to. You're obviously here, so that's a good thing. So presumably things are on the up and up.
Things are going very well. Yep, I'm. And then I write about I'm a cancer survivor. So that's such a weird battlefield analogy left over from the war on cancer and before. And what I try to say in there is I don't think you ever defeat cancer. I don't think you ever get cured of cancer. It leaves its own marks. Even if the disease does not return, it's left its own imprint on you. So that's why I'm not so sure that I want to go with the survivor one and get some kind of a gold medal for it. Plus, there's all that Jewish heritage of a ken of horrors. Once you get the medal for surviving, then you're dead about a week later. You don't need that kind of luck.
In all seriousness, though, I would imagine this makes you vividly aware of how mortal you are. When you get a diagnosis like this,
yes,
you go, oh boy, this could be the end not far away, right? You have to grapple with that in a way most people don't through most of their lives.
Yes, and it's interesting that has changed over time. That was a very acute issue in the first year or two or three, and over time, because what the great American breakthrough is converting cancer from an acute death-filling event into a chronic illness. Is that chronicity of the disease changes your perception about it. Now, I will say that when I get a pain in my knee that certainly comes with being my age, my first thought is metastatic cancer, which is, that's the leftover part for being a cancer survivor. I don't jump to arthritis. I go right away to I got a Met.
It escaped my prostate and went to my knee.
Yes, exactly. And then I reel it in. Back in the early days, I didn't reel it in for weeks on a time. I could just ruminate about it until I would, get some kind of reassurance. Now I just kind of,
Well, in fairness, you really actually had the disease, so it's not improbable that could.
Well, yes, but it's catastrophizing about this, so. I just noticed that's the way I deal with things. Is that any kind of symptom of anything other than it's going to be the flu? The first question is it back? What's going on? And so, but that over time, because it's now 10 years, and there's something to be said for longevity on these things. It's not as great an issue to me. I would like to think that it made me a more understanding person too. Only because I think I tried to be that way when I was a physician surgeon, but there's something about you're gonna like this phrase, lived experience.
Woo! My favorite.
that
as if there's any other kind of experience.
Well, it's different than book learning. In terms of how to talk with individuals, so I think that was I don't wish this on young doctors so that they can use it for the rest of their career, but I think that helps with an understanding of being ill. One of the problems I've talked about when we talk about health insurance and those kind of things is that most of us do not experience any real health issues until the 50s and 60s, which is good. But up until then, having to have your hernia fixed or your appendix out, these are not health issues. These are just first aid issues along the way. And it's when you run across something like this that all of a sudden little parts fall into a different perspective.
So as we wrap up here, maybe offer a little insight. For not just men, but anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer or they find out, they listen to this podcast and they find out the following week that they have cancer. What advice or guidance would you give them as someone who's already been down that path, so to speak?
It's worthwhile to listen to a group of physicians that you trust. It's not necessarily going to be the catastrophe that you make it out to be. That for many of the diseases, this is now much more of a chronic illness. And that's a huge difference. We like to bitch and moan about how many people have chronic illnesses in the country, but part of the reason that is because we made them manageable things to address. And I think you find the usual things that you get a supportive family along the way, and that certainly makes a big difference. It puts cancer. There's nothing like cancer to put your life in perspective.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at with my question a minute ago. But in all seriousness, we very snarkily end most of these episodes with, well, another problem solved. But I actually think you've actually shared some insight that might actually help real people.
That would be nice. That would be good.
Not to dismiss your typical medical insights, which are also helpful, but I think this connects with people in a way that.
That was the purpose of it. Was writing it was to do that, and interestingly enough, it was very cathartic because I've been thinking about this stuff for a few years, but I had not put it down onto the page. So now it's out there. It's free. I can go out and do some other things now.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you did. Once again, if you want to read this article, and I hope you do, it's called The Uneasy Grace of Healing, Reflections on a Decade with Cancer by Dr. Chuck Dinerstein. That's at acsh.org. Go to the website, click the subscribe tab, punch in your email address. We'll send you the stories we publish. The ones that you read are usually the ones we talk about. We are on X at ACSH.org. I'm at CamJEnglish. Our colleague Anna Delaski handles our Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook as well. ACSH Matter of Facts. Go follow Anna Delaski. She's on X and Instagram, doing these awesome little videos, 1 minute or so. The most recent one she did was GLP-1s and why they might be good for treating alcoholism, along with helping people lose weight, which is really cool. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then.